Earlier today, Hamas's political leader, Ismail Haniyeh, was killed in Iran just hours after an Israeli strike in Lebanon killed a senior Hezbollah commander there. Now, these attacks come after the Iranian proxy Hezbollah killed 12 children with rocket strikes in northern Israel on Saturday. What will be the timing and location of the near simultaneous attacks on the two leading Israeli enemies what does that mean as Israel continues its war against Hamas? Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is Carolyn Glick. She's a senior contributing editor at the Jewish News Syndicate and host of Carolyn Glick Show on JNS. Carolyn, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to have you on the program.
Always great to be with you, Tony.
So, Carolyn, I'm going to ask you first just to walk us through the events of the last 4 days.
All right. So, what Israel has, we saw Prime Minister Netanyahu in Washington last week giving his speech before the joint houses of Congress, and then he met with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris and had difficult meetings, as Kamala Harris made very clear in her uncoordinated statement after her meeting with Netanyahu, where she called for an immediate ceasefire in the war. And then Netanyahu traveled on to Florida, where he met with former President Trump before being called back to Israel immediately, because on Saturday afternoon, Israel time, we had Hezbollah massacred 12 children in Israel in the community of Majd el-Shams in the Golan Heights, who were playing on a soccer field in the town. And so Netanyahu came back to Israel several hours early and had been ensconced with his cabinet basically since he landed. And what we saw on the ground was, in fact, the assassination of Fuad Shukr, who was the Hezbollah chief of staff of their terror forces in Lebanon. He was Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah's chief's military advisor. He was responsible for all their precision-guided missiles and for all of their missile strikes against Israel, including the one that killed the children on Saturday afternoon. Later in the day, we got the report that Hamas's leader, Ismail Haniyeh, who had moved from the military leader in Gaza, where he served for many years as a terror master on the ground, to the head of their political Politburo that's located in Qatar, in Doha, some years ago. And he was the leader of Hamas. He was assassinated at a guest house run by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps in Tehran after attending the inauguration of Iran's new president and meeting with Iranian dictator Ali Khamenei, both in Tehran. Israel is not taking credit for the Haniyeh strike. It is taking credit for the Hezbollah strike, but that's a distinction that may or may not make that much of a difference, because obviously it's being attributed to Israel and not, for instance, to Micronesia or Luxembourg or any of the other usual suspects in these issues. So these were both highly significant moves. And Netanyahu gave us a press conference or a press statement this evening, his first since the events of Tuesday, where he did not speak about Haniyeh, but he spoke about the fact that Israel is going to continue, just as Israel attacked the Houthi port of Hodeidah after they struck a missile into Tel Aviv, just about 100 yards from the former American embassy in Tel Aviv, the current American consulate there, and killing an Israeli. Israel attacked a very important strategic site for the Houthis, which is still on fire over a week later. And they attacked in Beirut, and they attacked and killed Hamas's chief of staff, Mohammed Def, inside of Gaza about 3 weeks ago. So that's what he took credit for just about an hour ago in Israel. And then the Haniyeh thing is sort of hanging out there.
All right, Carolyn, I want to break these down. First off, I just have to say the Israeli intelligence is remarkable and able to track these individuals. And so really two significant events. And as you said, the Israelis have not taken credit for the attack in Tehran. So you have in Beirut, you have a Hamas leader, or you have a Hezbollah leader that is taken out. Now, he's an operational leader. This is quite significant. This is going toward the head of the snake, although Iran is the head of the snake, but this is a little snake. So that has to be a setback for Hezbollah in their work against Israel. But then when you go to Tehran, I mean, this is Iran is the big. I mean, that's the head of the snake, and you see these proxies like Hamas and Hezbollah to strike this in Hania, who was there in Tehran, who I think has been a part of the negotiations for the ceasefire. This is quite significant, and I think sends a strong message to Tehran that no one is going to be under your shelter that we want to eliminate.
That's right. And I mean, just as Israel signaled its capabilities to operate in Iran after Iran committed the missile assault on Israel in April, Israel made clear that it's capable of hitting every site by air in Iran, including its nuclear installations. So Israel didn't hit them because it was under tremendous pressure from the United States not to. But the strikes that it did carry out knocked out the anti-aircraft guns that were protecting the nuclear targets, etc. So that was a demonstration of capabilities. And here, assuming that Hania was in fact killed by Israel, he was under the protection of the IRGC north of Tehran. He wasn't in a major hotel. He was being hidden effectively, and they were able to. And he was assassinated while under the protection of the IRGC. This shows, that Israel can basically take out anybody anytime it wants to in Iran. So it's not only intelligence capability, it's also operational capability on the ground in Iran.
Now, the Iranians have responded that it is their duty to take revenge against Israel for this hit of the individual of Hania that was staying in their guest home, as they put it. But I want to play a short clip of David Mercer, spokesman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate, earlier today addressing the issue of what may come next.
We are on a high alert from the 7 fronts which we're facing Iran with. We're on extremely high alert. We know that this is a genocidal, murderous, fascist state.
Have to imagine there's an anticipation of a retaliatory strike by Iran, or at least through one of their proxies.
I mean, there are two things to take into account. First of all, is that Israel's athletes now in the Olympics, participating in the Olympics in Paris, have already been under, since the very outset of the games last week, they've been under unprecedented amount of security guarding, their protection. And today, Israel augmented that still further, giving a personal bodyguard to every Israeli athlete. And so they're very much at risk in Paris, and there's a lot of concern about them because that's a very vulnerable position. And don't forget
there's a history there too, with the Olympics.
Precisely, and we also have the Paralympics. We have the Paralympics after the regular Olympics, where Israel tends to win a lot of gold medals because we have so many wounded veterans who do so well in so many of the sports there. And so, we have a lot to be concerned about in Paris, but all Israeli representative legations throughout the world have upped their security tremendously. So that's one thing, but we also have to remember that Israel has always been the most threatened country, and certainly over the past 10 months, Israeli embassies, consulates throughout the world have been subjected to threats and to attacks, whether by, radical leftists or Islamists on the streets in London and in other places. So, this is just a heightened alert. One of the things that I find weird, I understand is now a term of art in American politics for some reason, but one of the things that's most sort of remarkable that we're facing is that the United States keeps saying, well, we don't want, if Israel is attacked this way or that. Israel has been under continuous attack for the past 9 months from Hezbollah in Lebanon, and obviously from Hamas, and from the Houthis, and from Iran, and from Iran's militias in Iraq and in Syria and in Judea and Samaria and so on and so forth. So Israel has been attacked from 7 fronts by Iran and its proxies. directly and indirectly for 9 months. And so this idea that there's this tit for tat going on and that we're not already at war and that we're not already at heightened alert is part of a word game that is being led really by the United States under the Biden-Harris administration to try to, portray this as some sort of at every moment after every, secrete assault on Israel by Iran and its proxies along all of these fronts, we have to decide whether we're going to follow suit. We're at war. Nobody ever asked after any secret battle in Europe in World War II or in the Pacific or in any battle, in any war. Okay, so now they attacked you. Are you going to do something? We're at war. Of course, we're going to do something. We haven't won yet. So there's this whole effort to try to deny reality when it relates to the fact that Israel's in an ongoing regional war against Iran and all of its regional proxies that are all attacking Israel and have been attacking Israel with various degrees of intensity, but always on the attack since October 7th.
What's the mood on the streets of Israel as you look back over the last week? Benjamin Netanyahu being here in the United States, speaking to a joint session of Congress, very forceful, strong message, and then these events that we've just been describing. What is the sense? Has the resolve? I mean, it was already there. Is it deepening? What's the sense?
Well, it's sort of a roller coaster because yes, you always have very deep resolve among Israelis. Over 2/3 of Israelis say that the only important thing is victory. It's more important than national unity. It's more important than anything. We need to win this war, and that's been consistent, rising a lot, going down a little since October 7th. But the resolve of the Israeli people has been implacable throughout. The problem is that we have also a lot of nuisances on the ground in Israel because you have a very restive left. Our leftist minority has been trying to undermine the stability of the government, for the year and a half before October 7th. And then with a short respite of about 3 or 4 months at the beginning of the war, they went back to trying to overthrow the government. The Knesset ends its summer session today, and they had been desperately trying to overthrow the government before July 31st in order to instigate, according to our election thing, if a government falls, then within 3 months you have to have elections. They were hoping to have elections before November 5th, before the American elections. They failed on that. The government has survived the summer session of the Knesset, but they called for a civil rebellion last Saturday night. And so we've been facing a lot of different kinds of unrest that's been instigated by the left in and out of positions of power in Israel's bureaucracy since Netanyahu came back from the United States. So that we have this incredible, implacable resolve, and then we have these leftists on the ground who are trying to stop it. I think that what we saw on Tuesday in Beirut and in Tehran, again, is going to act to stabilize the political situation in Israel, still further perhaps expand the coalition, the governing coalition, but certainly it's going to have a good impact. People understand the risks, but they also understand that, we've been at risk, we've been at war. It's important to be on offense. It's important to restore Israel's position. It's our deterrent power and also the fear in the hearts of our enemies of what awaits them if they don't capitulate to Israel for a change, with the United States, of course, pushing Israel to capitulate to them. Now they're more under the gun to stand down against Israel and to accept our demands. So that's very, very important.
Well, it remains a very volatile situation, one that here in the United States, not only we standing with and supporting the Israeli people and their right to defend themselves, but praying for the peace of the land of Israel. As Christians, as the Scripture instructs us to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, we're praying each and every day. Carolyn Glick, I want to thank you for joining us. As always, very much appreciate your insight.
Oh, it's always a joy to be on your show, and thank you again for your prayers and for your love for Israel. We feel it and we appreciate it very much, Tony, and to all of your audience.
All right, and it's not going anywhere. We're going to remain steadfast.